An open exchange, the gap between rich and poor growing in Africa's most expensive football league. In 2013, it's the corporate box that rules football, and any club that hopes to stand a chance of competing obviously needs cash. So joining us to talk about that further is Jay Kabos from Forbes Africa magazine. Jay, what struck me about South African soccer, just as it's getting worse, is that there are two teams that everyone's interested in and that the money follows, and that's Orlando Pirates and Kaizer Chiefs.
And that's pretty much how it is actually at the top. If you look at the standings and the market values, you're sitting with a team like Kaizer Chiefs who've got 138 million, who are worth 138 million rand, and then you've got teams like Mpumalanga Black Aces who are worth almost half that at 62.
Now you've got an article in the latest Forbes magazine on particularly the Black Aces. Now that's a club, it's not just a made-up club. Some clubs are made up, you know, they're created from nothing. It used to be called Witbank Black Aces. It goes back quite a long way. It's got a strong support base.
Yes, indeed. And you can see when it comes to the bigger games like Kaizer Chiefs versus Black Aces, they'll be able to fill out the entire stadium at Mbombela. But when it comes to a lower ranked side, they struggle to get a couple of thousand in. And I think that's the reality of it at the moment.
Even though they've got a strong support base, you need the marketing and you need to buy players. And we look at the English league in particular, where these absurd numbers, the numbers that they pay for the players, and what they pay them per week, they've tried to do that. I mean, money has been put into this club. Absolutely.
And well, for Black Aces, they've signed up 15 new players for this season, and but the most expensive player of them is only worth a couple of million, as opposed to someone like Bernard Parker, who's in the national side in Kaizer Chiefs, and he's worth 8 million or so.
So what do you conclude here? I mean, what's the way out? Because it's, in the end, a league is not sustainable if only two clubs draw crowds.
Well, I think that's the big question, and it's a difficult question to answer, but I think what needs to be done is teams need to level themselves out a little bit, and maybe we need to bring in some good players from overseas or from other countries in Africa.
Well, of course, there would be a cost, particularly if they're not from Africa, but what about the cost from Africa? How does our league compare in terms of hunting down players that would be good to have in our league?
I think, well, that's it. I think I think about 17% in the PSL at the moment are international players who come from, a lot of Nigerians come through, and one or two Ghanaians, but the majority of players are local. Yeah.
Well, and the other aspect is, of course, coaching. And you look at the coaches who get big money for international teams, and you always wonder why we needed those international guys when we had some very good ones locally. Surely the national coach, Gordon Igesund, can drive innovation at league level as well.
Well, I think there's actually a bit of contention with that. In the Premier League, there's, I think, a lot of preference nowadays. Well, the trend is that clubs take preference over national players, and you see that a lot with a lot of our overseas players who aren't allowed to come through and play in the national side, play for the national side because they have club duty. And I think a lot of the time that's what happens with the national side is the preference has actually gone towards your club side as opposed to the national level.
Well, it needs some vision at a business level, it seems, not just a sporting level. That's Jay Kabos. Well, you can read the full article on that particular Mpumalanga Black Aces, but the PSL more generally and the business issues around it in the Forbes Africa September issue.